In the myths of Greece, the chimera was a creature of nightmare. Part lion, part goat, part serpent, breathing fire and spreading terror. It was not alone in the world of hybrids. Ancient texts and carvings show Sphinx with human faces and lion bodies, griffins with eagle wings and feline forms, and countless other mixtures of beasts. Two modern ears. These are symbols, metaphors of chaos, fear, or divine power. But what if they were something else? What if chimeras were failed attempts at cross-species hybrids, created by hands that mastered genetic blending long before us? The thought may sound like fantasy, but science today edges close to it. In laboratories, researchers have grown mice with human cells to study disease, and pigs with human organs to explore transplants. Scientists have crossed goats with spiders at the genetic level, producing milk that contains spider silk proteins. The term chimera is now part of biology itself, describing organisms with cells from more than one species. If we can do this now, in only a few decades of genetic exploration, is it unthinkable that a forgotten civilization could have experimented with similar techniques in the deep past? Ancient myths are suspiciously full of hybrids. In Mesopotamian art, creatures with wings, horns, claws, and human faces guard temples. Egyptian deities combine animal and human form as falcon-headed Horus, jackal-headed Anubis, crocodile-headed Sobek. Were these purely symbolic, or do they reflect encounters with beings engineered to combine traits from multiple species? The chimera itself, with its bizarre mix of predator and prey, may have been remembered as one such failed creation, a beast with mismatched instincts, unfit for survival, yet terrifying enough to burn itself into human memory. When storytellers spoke of it breathing fire, perhaps they exaggerated some chemical defense mechanism, like the bombardier beetle's explosive spray. The image of fire could be a distorted echo of something real. Archaeological fragments raise eyebrows. In some burial sites, bones appear jumbled, as if skulls and bodies from different animals were pieced together intentionally. Mainstream archaeology sees this as ritual practice, symbolic acts of power. But what if these were the remains of hybrid creatures born of experimentation that lived and died unnaturally, their bones buried with reverence or fear? Consider also the legends of monstrous births recorded throughout history. Medieval chronicles tell of children born with wings, with extra heads, with animal-like features. Most of these were likely deformities, explained with myth. Yet they hint at humanity's long fascination and fear of blurred boundaries between species. What if some of these tales were not accidents of nature, but the fading remnants of engineered experiments from civilizations now lost? Of course, skeptics point to imagination. Humans combine animal forms naturally in art to express ideas. Lions for strength, eagles for freedom, serpents for cunning. A creature that fuses them becomes a living metaphor. But myth often begins with more than metaphor. It begins with encounters, discoveries, and fragments of truth wrapped in story. If people once saw a beast that defied categorization, they would explain it the only way they could through myth. The dangers of hybridization are real, even today. Most attempts at crossbreeding fail, producing creatures that cannot survive or reproduce. If an ancient civilization pursued hybridization, whether through genetic knowledge, alchemy, or other lost techniques, their results would likely be grotesque, unstable, short-lived. Such creatures would not endure as species, but as horrors, remembered in story as warnings. And what of the purpose? Why create hybrids at all? Perhaps for labor, combining the strength of one animal with the obedience of another. Perhaps for war, forging monsters to terrify enemies. Or perhaps for ritual, blending sacred animals into living icons of worship. Whatever the reason, the results would live on not in nature, but in myth and in our fascination with the chimera. So what if chimeras were failed attempts at cross-species hybrids? Then mythology preserves not only imagination, but archaeology of knowledge lost. It would mean humanity, or something before us walked paths of science we are only now rediscovering. It would also serve as a warning. The boundary between creation and monstrosity is thin. Our myths of hybrid beasts may be memories of what happens when that boundary is crossed. In the end, the chimera is more than a monster. It is a mirror. It reflects our fear of what happens when life is twisted, when boundaries blur, when creation exceeds control. If hybrids once walked the earth, even briefly, their failure is why we remember them. And perhaps their story is not just a relic of the past, but a caution whispered to us now, as we once again learn how to splice the code of life.